This meeting won't be that long tonight. I've got a few things I want to go over. If you're in section 2, I teach 3 sections, section 1, 2, and 3. There was a glitch in the quiz. I just now adjusted your score by 9.81 percentage points. That didn't happen in sections 1 and 3. Just a reminder, once again, and I've had very few people take advantage of this, which is really surprising. That water memory quiz, video and quiz, which is located in one of the later modules, I want to say module 21 or 22, but it's open. That is a very interesting video. It's about an hour and something minutes long. It's not boring. It's not really like an educational video. And then you take the quiz. There's 10 questions on it, which are not that difficult. You might jot down a few notes during the video. When you take the quiz, if you got 0 of the questions right, you still wouldn't lose any points. But let's say you got 5 of the questions correct. That would make a total of 25 bonus points, add to a total of 25 bonus points, which is fairly significant. But I've had a couple people get 10 out of 10 questions right, and then you get 50 bonus points because I adjusted. The quiz will say it's worth like 0.1. That's because I have to set it like that. So if you got like 0.08 out of 0.1, that means you got 8 out of 10 questions, and I would adjust your grade to 40 out of 50 points. If you're trying to raise your grade, take advantage of that. That's fairly significant. The other one is worth 20 points. It's an older movie, but you can't, it only has 5 questions associated with it. It is actually a good movie. That's module 21. So sometimes people end up with like an 88 or an 89 average, and they don't take advantage of those bonus points. Remember, there's sound bonus points all over the place. If you click a sound and say, oh man, that's 20 years old or 30 years old, I don't know what it is, then type it in on the internet. It'll tell you what it is. The internet will tell you just about anything. So, take advantage of that, especially when you have some free time, you want to watch it. It's not, like I said, I don't actually think it's boring. So let's start with the first code tonight. Code number 1 is 232. Once again, that is 232. So when we finish this quiz, take the little quiz code and get your free 15 points. You have till the end of the week to actually take it. Each one is set, you don't have to, because some people can't attend tonight, so they have until Sunday to actually watch the recorded video and take the quiz. If you don't, it goes down as a 0. Now that's not much out of 15 points, but these are basically free 15 points. So there's no reason not to get the 15 points. And I'll give you the second and the third code here in just a little bit. I would give you the second and the third code right now, but what would happen is people would watch the video, like 1 minute of it, and get the 3 codes, and wouldn't watch the rest of it. So I'll give you the second code in the middle of it. All right. I'm reading some messages. Some people have bad reception. That could be your internet. I don't think it's the internet on this end because I have high-speed internet, but you never know. Regardless, you can, even if you're here now, you can still watch the video later. I want to make these Zoom meetings worth your time because I notice only 11 people are here out of 90 because I have 30 in each class. So a lot of people just aren't showing up, which is fine. They may be doing okay on the grades, but I'm going to give you some, I don't think we have another Zoom meeting between now and test number 4. So I'm going to open up test number 4, give you some screenshots, which should help a little bit with that quiz. But I'm going to review a little bit of the stuff that's on test 4 and on the final exam. I'm getting ahead of myself for the final exam. But hopefully when you get out of this class, you'll definitely remember this. So I want to spend a little bit of time quickly reviewing, because I know we've been over it several times, the 8 components of nutrition. if you don't remember anything outside of this class, please remember these 8 components. Now, books will tell you, every nutrition book that I've looked at says, they all say there's 6. Just because it's in a book doesn't make it correct. Just because I tell you something doesn't make it correct either. Just because somebody else says it doesn't make it correct. That's why you have to research and find out things for yourself. It's a matter of semantics, is what you call a component of nutrition. So once again, the 8 components of nutrition, and hopefully you'll have this memorized by now. And the way I remember it is, the first 3 are the 3 food groups in no particular order, but I remember them this way: fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. Once again, fats, carbohydrates, and proteins are not foods, they're food groups. That's where people get confused. A food group is not a food. You don't order fats when you go to a restaurant, carbohydrates or proteins, you order food. Your body only requires fats, carbohydrates, and protein. They don't require any particular food. It makes no difference to your body where the fats come from. They can come from cheese, milk, nuts, all kinds of, avocado has fat, all kinds of foods have fats in them. Proteins, once again, come from all kinds of foods. You don't order protein when you go to a restaurant. Proteins come from, people think of just meat when it comes to protein, but dairy products have protein, all kinds of nuts have protein, lemons have proteins, a lot of things have proteins that would surprise you. See, fats, carbohydrates, protein, carbohydrates. Once again, I know this is a review, but a carbohydrate, people will tell you sugars. The books will tell you it's a sugar or a form of a sugar, but I would like you to think of a carbohydrate as a plant. A carbohydrate is a plant. A sugar comes from a plant. So if it has plant material in it, it has carbohydrates. Your body does not care where the carbohydrates come from. Now, as I said earlier, people will argue with you on this when it comes to milk. They'll say, well, milk has carbohydrates. But once again, the review on that, or the reason for that, is because the mother, whether it's usually you're talking about a cow, ate plant material, and there's transfer of the carbohydrates through the milk to the offspring. It doesn't apply so much to a cow, although that happens, but mainly animals in the wild that can't go out and graze, and they can only live on plant material. So where do they get plant material from? From the mother's milk, because they would be taken by a predator if they went out and grazed. So when people say, well, then milk proves that it's not just plant material, it doesn't. It's plant material. Now, there's a lot of deception on the internet, because if you go to myplate.gov, they'll tell you there's 5 food groups. They'll say dairy's a food group. That's insane. Look it up. When we finish this meeting, go to that myplate.gov and look it up, and it'll say dairy is a food group. You don't have to have dairy at all. You need fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. You don't have to have milk. You don't have to have cheese. You don't have to have any dairy products. There's nothing wrong with them, although some people have allergies to it. Everybody has an allergy, whether it's symptomatic or not. Symptomatic means you notice it. It's causing symptoms. Sometimes it's symptomatic, and then you'll have an allergy, usually to lactose. People don't have the enzymes to break down lactose. Certain populations don't have that. Some do, some don't. But once again, try not to think of food as either good or bad. People can be good or bad depending upon their mood. Food doesn't change. Food doesn't have moods. Food is neither good nor bad. What determines whether the food is good or bad for you is not the food, it's you. And what about you determines whether it's good or bad? It determines, number one factor is when you ate last. And that, once again, and I know we've been over this, but that has to do with your glucose level. If your glucose level is low, not dangerously low, that's the term hypoglycemic, then all food's good for you, including the cheeseburger. You're not going to gain weight, it's not going to go to fat cells, you need it. You can't eat them every day because you need a variety of foods. The apple is bad for you if your glucose level is normal, because it's going to end up being stored as fat. Now, that doesn't mean the apple is a bad food. It's a bad food slightly, bad if your glucose level is normal. So if you want to get by with eating, quote, unhealthy food, then don't eat for a while. We talk about this a lot in this class. The more, and there's no specific answer on this, the more time, and this is for kids, this goes for kids also. The more time you have between the meals, the healthier you will be. There's no question on that. And a lot of time. Now you need the proper amount of calories and nutrients and fruits and vegetables, yes. But the more time you have, the healthier you'll be. Keep that in mind throughout your life. All the research points in that area. All of it. And it doesn't apply to just some people, it applies to everybody. And it applies to athletes. Athletes sometimes will say, I can't do that, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I get tired of hearing people say that, making excuses, but it works. It's not easy to do. Once you start doing it, it's easy. But starting out, once you're used to doing it, it's easy. But once starting out, it's difficult. It's very difficult to do that. If you do that, you'll live longer, you'll be healthier, you'll have less disease, you'll feel better, you'll lose weight, you'll have less cancer. Your chances of having diabetes will go way down. If you have type 2 diabetes, it'll probably go away. And just a myriad of things will happen. Why that is, your immune system improves, all kinds of things happen. But yet, people don't make a big deal out of it. We're so hung up on eating 3 meals a day. It's just amazing. Our society is built around that. That is why there's so many people with diabetes and cancer. Those 2 diseases are going way up, and we have all the medicine in the world, the hospitals, et cetera. They're getting better at curing it, but the prevalence of it is going up, and that entirely has to do with nutrition. And it's not an opinion, it's a fact. People will say, well, that's an opinion. It is not an opinion. There's overwhelming research in this area. I'm not talking about weight. Thin people need to do this as well as overweight people. Not to the point of anorexia. That's a different issue. So it's amazing when you talk about this to certain groups, they'll start talking about anorexia right off the bat. They start talking about anorexia. Once again, it doesn't apply to anorexia. Anorexia is not an eating Anorexia is not an eating disorder, even though the books say it is. It's a psychological body image disorder. A little bit of review once again, usually women, can be men. Anorexia, called anorexia nervosa, starts with somebody weighing much less than they should. They look like a skeleton in the mirror and they think they're overweight. They really believe they're overweight. That's psychological image. Could be brainwashed by the media or a number of other things. So they don't eat much to lose more weight. That's what anorexia is. It starts as a body image and it manifests itself by not eating. But not eating is not the original cause of it. So once again, bulimia, is where you eat and purge it up, eat and throw it back up. But it's not as dangerous as anorexia. I'm not advocating it, but it's much grosser than anorexia. So guys, or Jolly, please turn your camcorder off if you would. That way records just me when I record these meetings later. So there should be a button on there for you to disable your camcorder. Can you find it? Who's it, Jolly? Yeah, okay, so disable it. Thank you. It's on there somewhere. Thank you. So I've already given out code 1. I'll give it out once again. Somebody was asking for it. It's 232. Code 1 is 232. Okay, now let's get right into it. Let's do a little bit of screen share, and I know you got through with test number 3. I know the hardest part of this class are these tests and working the study guides. It takes a while to do that. Hopefully you're getting help in the Zoom, the conference Zoom study guide room, and you're not working them all yourself, and you're sharing them with other people. You can chat. There's the chat utility in the Canvas site, and there's all kinds of ways. You can email them to each other, text them to each other. You can Zoom and work them together. Because it takes a while to do these, I know, and they help with most of the questions, not all of the questions, but most of the questions. But you're getting through it okay. The video quizzes shouldn't be too bad. Most people are doing okay on them. They're making like 80s, 90s, and 100s. Those are, those are designed not to be that difficult, and the videos are fairly short. The bonus quizzes are there just to help your grade. So there's opportunities to raise it. So, we've got test number 4 and 5, 2 more big tests coming up. But then when I look at the final exam and the grades from my previous classes, the grades on the final exam are usually always the highest test grades. That's because you've already had these questions, and you've already have the study guides, and there's not much preparation other than kind of looking through it and knowing what to expect. And so that's not a test you should have to worry about too much. And remember, you have an entire week to take it. Now, the final exam, you only get 1 try, but it says that. But you won't need more than 1 try for the final exam. So let's look at test number 4. And let me pull it up here. I'm going to open another browser. Every time I try to open 2 windows in the same browser, one tends to close up. Okay, let me log in. And I'll give you a shot at several of the questions, or several pages you can actually look at on it. That's the one I'm in actually right now, I think. These are all the same. It's interesting sometimes in these Zoom meetings. You guys have been pretty good about it. Sometimes people will ask me about politics. And to be honest, I don't really follow politics. I'm neither for one person or against another person, because I don't think it has that much of an effect on my life. People get riled up and want to argue and scream at each other. Are you for this person? I'll say no. Are you against them? No. Are you for this person? No. Against them? No. I just try to deal with things that I feel that are relevant. I don't give it much thought. I'd rather think about other things than that. But that's why sometimes I'm on the news. I'll just turn it off. Whatever station it is, it's just they'll talk about a news story, and then they'll have a panel when everybody argues with each other. And then you go to another station, they're actually doing the same thing. And eventually I just say, I can't listen to it anymore. I'm not taking sides on one way or the other. And it kind of reminds me of what happens in real life, in discussions on nutrition, when you know that you're having a discussion with somebody that is going to disagree with you right off, just because you can tell by their attitude. It's almost not worth talking to that person about it, especially when I talk about fasting and some of that kind of stuff. They're shaking their heads, and when you know you're right, and eventually you just kind of have to say, you say it in a polite way. You can't discuss it. There's a famous, you notice on my website, I have a lot of Einstein quotes. He actually said some very intelligent stuff, and one of his quotes, I don't know if I'm quoting it exactly. He says, "No one shows more ignorance than when they ridicule something they know nothing about." And I kind of agree with that. And I don't know enough about politics to comment on it, but I do know about nutrition to comment on it. Yet, when you discuss it with some people, they ridicule certain things, and they really don't know nutrition, especially the cellular level. They talk more about the way they feel and certain things they've heard. And you'll run into that a lot. I've run into that for years. But one of the things I've done is I research this stuff. I don't just read it from a book. I read research studies and look at the current information out there. And I've changed my mind on my opinion on nutrition over the years constantly. It's constantly evolving. I'm always open to new things. If something I believe is proven to be wrong or dangerous, I'm absolutely willing to look at it and as to see why it would be that way or why it wouldn't be that way. One of the things that I find really amazing is in dealing with Facebook. Facebook recently started taking down some of the videos, because I had some of them in my Canvas site dealing with fasting, because they said it was dangerous and unhealthy and unwise. And there was an excellent video by a young man in Australia that was somewhat overweight, maybe 70, 80 pounds overweight. And he did a documentary of a 30-day fast, what it was like on day 1, day 2, day 3, monitored. The changes were phenomenal. And he talked about the way you feel good and then sometimes you feel bad. And then he monitored, all the vital signs were monitored and everything. And it was just very inspirational, because it was from a layman's standpoint. But he had a disclaimer at the beginning saying that this is for somebody overweight. If you're normal weight, this is probably not advised. But remember, you can go 2 months before you'll actually die. And I used that video, and Facebook took it down because they said it was dangerous. And there was absolutely nothing that was dangerous. In fact, this guy was much healthier afterwards. It's dangerous for somebody it's not dangerous, but it's not advised for somebody that's normal weight, because then you shouldn't go that long. Now, eating every other day is healthy, but if you're overweight, there's nothing wrong with it at all. The world's record, this is mind-boggling. You can double check this and look it up. The world's record for going without food is a year. I know that's insane. Look it up. It was back in the 1960s, I think. Some guy weighed like 700 pounds, and he literally went without food for a year. Now, they gave him vitamins and minerals and water, and he lost like 400 pounds. Or 500 pounds. It was incredible. He's lucky he didn't die. But so, it's when people say, once again, when people say that it's unhealthy not to eat for a day or 2 or 3, what they really mean is this. What they mean is that I don't feel good, I have a headache, I'm tired, I don't have any energy, I'm lethargic, I'm cranky, I'm moody, I can't function. This may all be true, but that's not a sign of something that's dangerous. That's a sign of an addiction. They're actually going through withdrawal. These are the same symptoms that you withdraw from alcohol, you withdraw from drugs. Any sort of withdrawal is going to produce those same symptoms. They're not an indication that something is unhealthy is going on. They're an indication that your body is actually starting to change. And I know how healthy it is to do this, and I have a hard time going a long time between meals. I'll think about fasting while I'm eating, which is unfortunate, but it takes a lot of willpower. Okay, so let me find this. Let me go to quizzes. Here it is. So let's look at test 4 a little bit, and let's see what questions it pulls up. Now remember, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but you can record the video and look at it a little bit later. So let's do code number 2. So you guys got a pen? Write this down. Code number 2 is 333. Once again, code number 2 is 333. I was going to make it 666, but that's satanic, so can't do that. Sign of the devil. So code 333, maybe that's half a devil. I don't know. So you just took test 3, so I need to look at test 4. Okay, test 4. Let's preview it. Now, this is it pulls the questions from 200 some odd questions, so there's about a 50-50 chance that you will get some of these questions on here. But if I do it a couple of times, you'll be able to figure out which ones. Well, when you take the test, you'll know. So this is exactly what it's going to look like when you see it. Wait a minute here. Oh, I'm in edit mode. Let me go back. Go to preview mode. Preview. So it's right now the computer's pulling up 100 questions over here. See, it'll say it over here. Okay, so it's not 100 questions, it's 91. But it'll say that on this right here. Now, the other one may have said 100, but it depends on if it may not quite be 100. One was 99, and that's because one question was worth a little bit more. I mean, you could read all this. It goes into more detail exactly what's going on. But what that means is either the first question or the last question. This question may be a double. Somebody answered this. Did you have this question on test 3, the one about the minerals? Do you guys remember that question?
Yeah, I had that.
Yeah, I had that.
And then some of the answers seemed like they were cut off a little bit, right?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, you should still be able to match them up.
There was like 4 of them that all started with the same section, and then the part that differentiated them was cut off. So those 4 were really hard because the part that actually was the clue was cut off.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about because it said like blah blah blah, and then it was all the same, and then the part that you could tell didn't show at all.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good point. I may have to go back.
No matter how much I made my screen, I tried to make it as big as possible, and I tried to try and copy and paste it or something, and nothing was making it bigger.
Wouldn't.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this. This is really small, but like this, it ends right there, right? That's where it ended, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to take that into account. I may go back and give some people a little bit of extra credit for that. Everybody may get a few points on that. Let me think about it a little bit and see which ones were cut off, because that's not fair, because that's worth 20 points, and so at least 4 I know were cut off where you couldn't differentiate them. The others you actually could, so that would actually be like an extra 2 points. That's probably what I'll do on that. So, but that question should not be pulled up twice here. So this question, I'm going to revise this and take this question off, and then it'll just be 100 questions. So when there's a screenshot of this, when I record it, there'll be 100 questions that are all worth 2 points each. All right, so let's go down through these fairly quickly. I'm not going to keep you guys too long. But that's a good point. I do need to adjust that on everybody's grade, all 3 classes. A couple of points, which is actually 4 points. If I give you a 2-point percentage, that's actually 4 points because it's worth 400. The question worth 200. The questions, the tests are 200 points. So if I could raise you by 2 percentage points, it's actually 4 points of this question. But that whatever. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to add 2 points. Take me a while to do that. So let's go down through about. I know I'm going fairly fast here, but when you review this later, these will be the questions. 50-50 chance they'll come up. So I want to go down through. Well, if I give you 25% of the test, that would be about 50 of these. So I don't have to pull up another random pull. So let's go, but I want to look at a few of these because I don't want to just read them and do the answers, go over the answers. Some of this is common sense you could apply. So, and some of it, these all should be from your study guide in some form or another. I don't know if anybody's even started this study guides for test number 4 yet, but a vegetarian is somebody that doesn't eat meat. A vegan is somebody that doesn't eat dairy products, or not dairy products. A better definition of vegan is anyone who does not eat anything that comes from an animal or an insect. That's a more accurate definition of a vegan, or an insect, which means honey. But a vegetarian doesn't eat meat. That's where you get into like the term, is an egg meat? Some say yes, some say no, like it's a tomato or fruit or vegetable. It's a ridiculous argument. It doesn't matter what it is. I just know it's a carbohydrate because it's a plant. So that's all you really need to know. A vegetarian can consume good sources of dietary iron. When they throw the term dietary in front of anything, it means you eat it. dietary iron by eating iron-fortified cereal, raisins, dried plums, beans, legumes, all of the above. What do you think the answer to that is? Obviously, iron-fortified cereal. Do raisins have iron in them? Now remember, the way to think of minerals are part of the earth, they're in the earth, and they're picked up by plants that grow out of the earth. That minerals get into plants because they're picked up out of the soil. And so that's where most of your minerals come from, are plants. And animals eat plants, so then animals have minerals in them also. So raisins has iron in them. Believe it or not, it's got a decent amount. So do dried plums, so do beans. Beans are high. And legumes are a pod, they're part of the Mediterranean diet. So it's all of the above. Once again, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time when you see all of the above, that's going to be the answer. So let's scroll down through here. I'm going to go down to 50. This one, I'm not big on numbers. Dan is 40 years old. What is his estimated maximum heart rate? I've taught exercise physiology where you actually would figure all that out. There's a formula for that that's more accurate than the formula I actually use, because a normal resting heart rate is around 70. And if you double your resting heart rate to around 40, that's a good workout. When you triple it to around 210, that's getting into a dangerous area. So there's a formula, it's in the book, and I don't like these kinds of questions, but they come from a test bank. I would actually have to plug in the formula because these answers are too close. 180, 187, 190, 194. Are you kidding me? Who knows what that is? I mean, that's, you use a formula and you'll be able to figure that out. Beats per minute. I don't have a lot of time to go into kind of what's going on with the way heart rate is measured and some of the criteria they use. Somebody tell me what a normal blood pressure is. What's considered a normal blood pressure by the medical establishment? What over what?
180.
Yeah, 120 over 120 over 80.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the top number called? Anybody know?
The systolic.
Very good, systolic. What's the bottom number called?
Diastolic.
Diastolic. Very good. 120 over 80. What that means is when your heart contracts or beats, blood is forced through your arteries and the pressure goes up. That's your systolic pressure. That's the highest maximum. But when your heart relaxes between beats, your blood pressure goes down. And that's the diastolic. But it doesn't just go from 120 to 80. It goes down every number in between 120 and 80 every time your heart contracts and relaxes. It beats and relaxes. So what does that mean? What that means is your arteries are elastic. The heart contracts, the pressure is greater, they expand. In between beats, they contract, expand, contract. They do that your entire life. Your arteries are oscillating. Oscillating means go up and down or in and out or round and around. It's rhythmic. So they do this. That's very necessary for preventing the disease hardening of the arteries. When the arteries don't oscillate, they tend to become solid and they become hard. And then that creates a coronary heart disease. It's not in the heart so much, it's in the arteries. But the coronary arteries are the arteries that wrap around the heart. And when they don't expand, not as much blood will go through because they need to expand when there's more pressure. So that's one of the reasons for exercise is to get the heart rate up and to have it expand and then contract. That's why a regular blood pressure, you will, keeping it too normal, you will die eventually from the disease hardening of the arteries. I don't know if I went over this or not before. It sounds like I have, but The first artificial heart transplant was a doctor, I think it was at Penn State University, who was a dentist that was dying. So he volunteered to have the artificial heart, and they had it outside of his body, not inside. That's like a Frankenstein movie. It was a pump outside, and the hoses were going in and out, and they were circulating the blood. That would be bizarre because you could see it. But it was just a pump, and it just pumped regular. So he had no blood pressure. It was just steady. The blood pressure was 100. Nothing oscillated. Now that's okay for the hoses outside, but that's not okay for the arteries inside the heart. He died from the disease, hardening of the arteries, because the pump failed. So they finally realized the pump needs to act like a regular heart. It needs to expand and contract. That's very necessary. That's one of the benefits of cardiovascular exercise. Get your heart rate up. That stresses the heart. And when you stress the heart, it adapts and it changes. Remember the term that we talked about in here constantly. And that term, once again, is hormesis. Hormesis sounds like hormones, but hormesis means, you can Wikipedia and read up more on it. But hormesis means stress that creates strength. All stress creates strength in the human body. Exercise stresses the heart, makes it stronger. Working out stresses the bone, it makes it stronger. Fasting stresses your body. That's hormesis. That makes your cells stronger. And so lack of hormesis leads to damage. So the stress is actually what you're striving for. So you would think that a normal blood pressure of 120/80, if somebody said, okay, which is a healthier blood pressure? Because the top number is the one they look at a lot. They look at the bottom number a little bit. So what's a healthier blood pressure? 120/80 or 130/70? Anybody want to guess? You would think 120/80, right? Because that sounds normal. And 130 sounds a little bit high. It's not really high, but it's higher than 120. 130/70 is a healthier blood pressure than 120/80. That's an indication of a lower resting heart rate. Because when the blood pressure goes from 130 down to 70, that takes more time. That means the heart is beating slower. And in between beats, the blood pressure has time to drop. And so that's the difference between the top number and the bottom number. The name escapes me, but there's a name for it. The greater the difference, the healthier the person is from a cardiovascular standpoint. Now, you can't take that to extremes and saying, oh, what about 190/100? That's a difference of 90. Well, that's way too high. But 130/70 is healthier. And people with really healthy heart rates have like 110/50 and things like that, which is good. The person probably works out a lot if that's the case. So let's go down through a few more of these. A lot of zinc. I don't know if you're watching the news a little bit. There's a lot of stuff on zinc now. Anybody heard what you should take for COVID? What mineral and what vitamin to help with COVID? What's the vitamin?
Zinc and vitamin C.
Not C, but what? D.
Oh, D. Oh,
D.
wow.
There's a lot of evidence that D and zinc make a pretty big difference in fighting off COVID. And there may be some truth to that, especially with zinc. Zinc is one of the few minerals that seems to help with colds and flus and with viruses, and COVID-19 is a virus. It doesn't kill the virus, but what zinc does, it kind of boosts your immune system. Your immune system needs zinc. Some of the immune cells are made from zinc, and so your body needs it. I don't take many minerals, but that's the one I do take. Now, I don't take vitamin D because it's a fat-soluble vitamin. It's stored in fat cells, and it's the most toxic of the fat-soluble vitamins, although it would take a lot for it to be toxic. So let's go down through a few more of the
find the ones I gave you. Stop.
BMI, body mass index. They use that instead of weight now. That's a big thing they use in physiology, and doctors use. So your BMI is, that's considered a high BMI. I don't know if it falls into the obese or morbidly obese. 32, I think, would be obese. double check on that. They do use weight, they use height, they use age, they use percent body fat, and they plug all these together, and there's a formula once again to come up with a BMI. This one right here, you know what? I'd actually have to look this up. What is thought to be one of the primary causes of the decreased sense of smell in aging adults? I would just say aging, but that's using part of the question to answer itself. Probably not this. Probably not this. Probably not that. I would probably say this right here, but I'd have to double check it out. I'm not sure on that. That's getting really detailed. Neurons send the sense of smell to the brain. Increased number. No, it wouldn't be increased. It wouldn't be increased in anything. So increase, no, increase, no, increase, no. So it's either reduced mucus production, reduced diversity of food. I wouldn't say that, because I don't think as you get older, you have that. And that, I don't think that would decrease your sense of smell if you smell other things besides food. Just elimination, I would say reduce mucus production. That's going to affect the sense of smell. I'm 99% for sure that's the answer, but it should be on your study guide. So, look that one up. So let's go down through until we get to 50, and then we'll wrap it up here. These kind of questions, like I said, they come from a test bank, but I've taught exercise phys, and I don't think they're worded correctly. Although, go with what they say here. It says, what is the recommended carbohydrate, remember carbohydrates a plant, intake during 1 to 2 hours of intense exercise? This implies that if you exercise for 1 or 2 hours, you need to be eating during the exercise? That's ridiculous. You don't eat during exercise. I think what they meant was like how much carbohydrates do you burn to 1 to 2 hours, or how much are you burning? It would be a better way to phrase it. I may have to go in and change that. So they're given it in grams per hour. A gram is a unit of weight, which is not a good way to express food energy, because food is expressed in calories, and weight and calories are different things. But the book's going to have some formula, some answer here. At least on these kind of questions, if you work the study guide, you can have the exact answer ready to go, and you don't have to plug in some formula. So it's not so bad that they have these as far as the study guides go. It says, where in the cell do aerobic energy systems produce ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. That's the energy molecule. Cells use glucose as energy. They can use fatty acids, and they can use ketone bodies, but all cells use glucose in the beginning. Glucose is broken down inside the cell into ATP, and that's the energy molecule. That's the breakdown of glucose, and that's what your cells use as energy. The amount of ATP, weight of ATP that you use per day is almost equivalent to your entire body weight. I know it sounds strange, but it's recycled over and over, and it's an ongoing process. You run about an ATP really quickly. That's why cells are constantly taking in glucose. But the term aerobic means with oxygen. Anaerobic means without oxygen. Aerobic systems usually are are long-term, like running a mile. That's aerobic. You need oxygen for energy. Running a 100-meter dash, I know you're breathing when you're running it, but you could actually hold your breath and run it. You wouldn't do very well, but you could make it to the end. So technically that was anaerobic. You didn't use any external oxygen. You had enough oxygen in you to use it. So aerobic means long-term, and anaerobic means short-term. and this is more of a cellular biology question. It says, where does aerobic energy systems produce ATP? The energy systems for all cells are the mitochondria. Cells have mitochondria throughout them. That's where they're kind of like think of the mitochondria as the batteries of the cell. But look this up and you'll find the answer to that. This is another one that has an exact answer. What segment of U.S. population is expected to double by 2040? Probably older people, because we are living longer. I would absolutely guess this one, 85 years or older, would probably double, but I'm not sure. They could have snuck something in there like this. I know it's one of these two, because there's more medicine. People are tending to live longer, not because they're eating right and exercising more, mainly medicine's keeping them alive longer. What type of cancer in women is most likely to be associated with obesity? Whoa, that's a tough one. Anybody want to guess? Bone, lung, leukemia, brain, or breast cancer? I bet it's breast cancer. I'd have to double check that one again too, because that's kind of a better question is what is cancer? What is breast cancer? But I bet it's that, because that has a high association with weight. Now remember, weight doesn't cause diabetes or cancer. It's correlated with it. There are plenty of people overweight that don't have diabetes, they're healthy, that live a full life. It's better to be normal weight, but it's only correlated with it. So I don't think just saying that it's blaming weight on everything, I don't think that's completely accurate. It's only correlated with it. It's correlated with cancer. Men who have been successful in achieving weight loss typically adhere to diets of blank kilocalories per day. Once again, kilo means 1,000, but it really means, don't think of 1,000. That's the metric system. It means food calories. Think of the K as food calories. Diets of men tend to eat more. I'm guessing, I have to double check this one too on the study guide. 2,500 to 2,800, 2,000 to 2,200, that's too low for men. 3,000 to 3,200 is pretty high, but once again, it depends on how active you are. But probably within this range right here is that one. But let's go down, let's get to number 50. Here's a few more. I went through the other ones fast, but when you watch it, you can slow it down. So once again, and all of the above, iron deficiency anemia can be caused by, you throw these terms around loosely. Anemia means lack of oxygen. Now this is correct, iron deficiency anemia, because it means lack of oxygen caused by iron deficiency. But when somebody says they're anemic, a lot of people assume they're low in iron. If I get on the treadmill and I'm breathing hard, I'm anemic. That's because I need oxygen, but I'm not low in iron. You cross your leg and your foot goes to sleep, your leg is anemic, which means it's lacking oxygen because the blood supply is being cut off. It has nothing to do with iron. So when you're talking about iron deficiency anemia, you should use the term iron deficiency in front, and they do. So lack of iron in the bloodstream can be caused, or lack of oxygen in the bloodstream due to low iron, that can cause it. Pregnancy can cause, if it's insufficient intake. Once again, all the above. It's one of the ones where all the above, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time tends to be the answer. So let's look at the last one and then we'll end the meeting here. Food sources of selenium, that's a mineral. Selenium is actually a mineral you need, include all the following except, wow, that's a tough one. Selenium, and remember, it's a mineral, so it's going to be in plants, but it's not in all meats and foods. So let's look at this. Light tuna canned in water. I'm not sure. I think that has selenium. That's a meat. That's a meat. That's a meat. That's a plant. My gut guess, double check this on your study guide, would be this one, Parmesan cheese. Although cheese comes from an animal has some minerals in it, but this is highly processed. I would 99% say that is the answer, but that should be on your study guide there somewhere. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you the third code. It's 411. So 411. Okay, guys, you convinced me to go back and raise the test number 3 by a couple percentage points. So I'm going to do that for everybody. This recording will be posted probably in a few hours. Guys, have a good evening, and I will talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.